Good afternoon, everyone. It is really nice to have you all here. Welcome to this first webinar of the pre-departure orientation. As you can see, you were muted and your video is turned off. It will remain like that during the session. But if you have any questions, please type your questions through the Zoom chat. You can find Q and Answers, Elizabeth, Education USA. So please type your questions and send it to Q&A Elizabeth through the presentation. Any questions that you may have regarding visas, please wait for those. We will have another session. It will be 4 webinars. And the third webinar will be all about your student visa. So today, just make your questions about the presentation and about information that our co-host, our representative, have the information that he will have for all of you today. This session will be as well recorded and available on Mexico YouTube channel for your reference if you want to watch it again. The topic of today, which is very important, maybe you have been already working, some of you, or studying or visiting the US. But the topic of today is US culture and values, the essential toolkit for Mexicans. Jesus Aceves Loza is the US higher education institution representative for today. He is a great presenter and he has great information for you all to understand the US culture and values differences between Mexico and the US. So you can have this essential toolkit for Mexicans in order to be aware of these differences in advance before you go to your studies this fall. He is US representative. He is the representative at the Institute of American Language and Culture at Fordham University. So, well, right now, we would like to know where are you from, which state in Mexico are you from? If you can type it in the chat, that will be great. We have been advising some of you, our Education USA advisors in different advising centers in Mexico. So we are really glad to see your names. This pre-departure orientation Mexico 2021 series is addressed to those students that are already admitted and that are ready to prepare everything to go and pursue your studies of the program that you have chosen this fall 2021. So right now, let's see in the chat. Puebla, we see Mexico City, from Jalisco, Jacqueline, also from Juan, Mexico City, Chihuahua, Veracruz, Nuevo León, Colima, Yucatan. This is really nice to see. And that a lot of Mexicans from around Mexico are already preparing to go to pursue your studies. Anyhow, this series will be open to people that is interested. Probably some parents will be here during the presentations as well, or some prospective candidates, people that is still starting this process. But if you want information about what happens at the last step of the pre-departure, which is the pre-departure orientation, of course, you are invited and welcome to join this kind of sessions. Thank you for your answers, and we will continue. As you know, the advisees, the people that have been already through this advising with Education USA, your official source of advising from the Department of State, this is the last step, as in our Education USA Global official website. Remember that we have this model of 5 steps from the whole process in order to apply for admission at the US university. So you have made it to step 5, to the last step. So in advance, congratulations to you all. And now you are at these sessions that we mentioned before, the pre-departure orientation sessions. The pre-departure, as you already know a little bit of this information, is for students getting ready to depart for the United States. And we have been gathering information and resources that will help you prepare for your new experiences and develop skills to adjust to your new challenges. Remember that either 4 years or 2 years program, and even if you have been in the US, is different to stay there, to live there, to study continuously. And this is great experience. But of course, if you have this toolkit and this information and resources available for you, that will be easier. And of course, a more successful experience to you. This is not just an educational experience, it's a life experience. So we want you to be completely prepared to that. So in this case, we have been collaborating, and we are gathering this collaboration from US higher education institutions representatives, international students as well. During the series, you will see that in Instagram, we will have some interviews with some international students that were like you today at the pre-departure orientation before, and right now they are studying their programs at their US institution, and they have a lot of information and experiences to share with you. And also we will have the participation and the collaboration of the consular section at the US Embassy, Mexico. That is why I'm telling you that you will get all information and answers to all your questions, all the questions that you may have right now at that session. That will be one of the webinars of this series. Of course, we are inviting you in this pre-departure orientation to check the website of your US institution, of your US university. Check the website for all the information that they may have about the welcome orientation for international students. Find specialized pre-departure orientation, get in touch with the representatives at that university. Also, if you can get in touch with US alumni, that will be very helpful. They have a lot of information that perhaps will be very useful to you. And report in advance to your institution in order to attend those orientations when you are arriving at the US. So right now, I will call Jesus Aceves from Fordham University, and he will be giving this information about culture and values.
Martha, thank you for the warmest welcome to this pre-departure orientation. It is my privilege and my pleasure being with you all here this afternoon, probably in Sonora, in Baja California, also in central Mexico. And we are, gearing towards the evening here in New York. And I'm sure for those people who said they were in Yucatan, they're getting ready to get the evening as well. It was a really nice way, the last part of the introduction, where you were saying some tips basically to what do these new students are going to be doing as soon as they get here to the United States regarding their studies. And our talk for today, in our time together, I'm going to be covering, and this is going to be a challenge a little bit for me. I have a lot of material for you. I have a lot of things that I would like to share in a twofold way. First of all, yes, I am a higher education representative. I work at Fordham University here in New York City. And also I share your journey like 3 years ago, because I am currently pursuing a PhD in administration and supervision at the same university. So I am doing twofold. I am going to explain and share my experiences with American culture from an advisor point of view, but also I'm going to be sprinkling some of my personal experiences as well as a student. So today I want to share with you that everything is a matter of culture and definitely a clash of values. Not only when we go to different cities in Mexico, but you can imagine when you have to change definitely a culture overnight almost. I want to share with you some academic, administrative, and community points of view and pointers as well, so you can have a more fruitful, a more overall and well-rounded experience when you're doing your studies here in the United States. And also I want to touch base on culture shock and imposter syndrome, which are two big monsters that we have seen day in, day out, especially now with the pandemic, that occur not only for local and domestic students, but also in the majority of the cases, research says that this is like omnipresent in international students as well. And finally, I want to touch base as well on how our Mexican identity. I am from Mexico. I am actually from the state of Jalisco. It's one of the best assets that we have when we come to this country and when we are doing our studies here. If you can give me the next slide. First of all, I told you, this is a matter of culture. If you have questions, a parenthesis, if you have questions at any time in the presentation, please follow the protocols and the housekeeping like indications that Martha shared with you all. You can type it in the chat or direct those to Q&A Elizabeth. So coming back to our topic, a matter of culture. Definitely research says the culture in Mexico is one thing. Coming to the United States and embedding oneself into the culture, it's another different thing. Research has been done wide and deep regarding the cultural differences between countries and groups. And definitely, when we look specifically at Mexico and the United States, we can encounter several differences that are meaningful and important to be aware of. I'm not going to be reading what is on the screen. I think that you can make it yours, but the main differences and the points that I want to make very salient for you this afternoon is that the American culture is completely product-oriented. Mexican culture, as we are, is completely people-oriented. You have to be very mindful about this, because the way to tackle your studies and the way you're going to be producing your academic work and the way you're going to be creating relationships with other people is going to be framed, and it's going to be molded by your culture and the understanding of culture that you have from your parts in the United States. Amongst the main differences about people-oriented culture and a product-oriented culture is that as Mexicans, we tend to value more relationships and creating this trust, this confianza, which is the buzzword here nowadays, before even going to and cutting the chase as to the work that we need to do. In America, well, I'm not going to say America, in the United States, the opposite, it's true. In American culture, it is really highly valued, the product and the quality of the product, besides or on top of the relationships that we have. By any means, I'm saying that Americans are cold-hearted people. They are not, but the way they work is different. And just to give you as an example of these differences, in Mexico, we tend to agree, and I'm going to delve into that in a minute, but we tend to agree as a group, as a collective group. In the United States, they do the same, but they separate a little bit more their emotions to the task, meaning that we as Mexicans sometimes, and probably this is a very common example, we tend to take some things very personal, whereas the American is a little bit more able to separate their emotions to whatever they are completing as a task or as a project or as a work. What does this mean for you? Well, be mindful that either if you're going to be doing an undergraduate degree, or if you're going to be a graduate student, collaboration is going to be key. And this understanding of how can I approach my tasks, how can I approach my work, and how can I communicate the things that I want to communicate in a more effective way is going to be framed by this understanding. I'm going to delve a little bit more in the following slides. And if you can give me the next one. Thank you. So I was telling you, how can I be more aware so my cultural exchange process is more effective? First of all, we have to understand that perception plays a key role in the way I present myself to other people, in the way other people perceive me. And same is for nonverbal processes. In a sense, what should I be mindful of? First of all, and then again, I have to recognize that we are, even when we are neighbors, and even when we share many points and many of our avenues cross together, and we are at the crossroads of many, many things, definitely our cultures are very different. In Mexico, we tend to be more collectivistic. We value a lot of extended family values. We tend to agree. We tend to, then again, create relationships before even we go to work. In America, in the United States, it's a little bit different. It's more individualistic society. And you will notice this right off the bat. What do you think as an individual? It's appreciated, it's very welcome. And it doesn't have to be, or in this case, it doesn't have to agree with what the majority is saying, because your voice is going to have a place, and whatever you say and whatever you want to share is going to be appreciated and it's going to be welcome. However, in terms of perception, we have to acknowledge that this collectivism versus individualism standpoint is going to create sometimes a little bit of clashes. And this is a nice segue for ethnocentrism. For Americans, the best country in the world is this one. Same for Mexicans. However, when we talk about our culture in Mexico, we tend to be mindful and we tend to differentiate amongst different subcultures that there are in Mexico. And you all know that. Somebody from Nuevo León has a core culture that can be diametrically opposed to a person in Yucatan, for example. Or even in Mexico City, they have a very distinctive culture that might be very different from my own culture in Jalisco, even the way we speak and the way we perceive things. So then again, being mindful and being aware of these cultural differences that also occur in the United States and amongst the states within the United States is key for you to understand probably where your classmate is coming from. Probably you're in class and you're sharing whatever you want to share for that specific topic, and somebody probably misunderstood. And then this is a teachable moment for you to step back a little bit and say, hey, what was the message and what was the point of my or his participation? What is exactly what I was trying to convey with my perception and with my message here? Another example, hierarchy. In Mexico, we tend to have a larger hierarchy, and we appreciate that, whereas here in the United States, hierarchy, it's a little bit thinner, meaning that in Mexico, we are a little bit more accustomed to have a specific leader for a project, and we tend to communicate to that leader and to report to that. Here, as hierarchy gets a little bit thinner, everybody shares more responsibilities and everybody has to become a little bit more auto-manageable and able to generate without a lot of supervision sometimes. Remember, we have master symbols as well. For America, a master symbol is the flag, and today is the American Flag Day, which is very similar to what we celebrate on February 24th in Mexico. And yeah, you don't have to say, or you dare to say something about the Star Spangled Banner, for example, as we do with, as an example, La Virgen de Guadalupe. There are symbols that can be understood and that are representative from each one of the cultures. And when we bring to the table all of those symbols, then the experience gets richer and richer and richer. It provides a lot of opportunities to understand each other. And this is where preconceptions or stereotypes comes into play. I'm not gonna lie, even for some Americans in some tiny towns in the United States, they still believe that Mexico is a huge desert, or that Mexicans tend to be as they were perceived 30, 40 years ago, that they didn't work so hard, that we didn't put a lot of effort into the things that we do. But those are stereotypes, as am I certain about all the stereotypes that we have about Americans in Mexico. So my best advice for you is be aware of those stereotypes. Those can be unconscious. You can have a lot of biases, unconscious, that they come to the surface, and being here, especially the first 3 to 4 months, will provide you with multiple opportunities for you to realize, understand, and deconstruct those biases. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna happen, and probably you're gonna fall into those biases several times, but that's okay. That is part of your learning journey. And it's okay to, sit at a table, and if you have a conflict with somebody, especially during class projects, that is pretty common. It's completely valid to sit down and say, hey, this is what I understood. What are you understanding here? The best way to break up with these stereotypes and to break away from them, actually, is to become more empathetic. And for that, Mexicans, we have a mastery. We're super empathetic. We have that ability, that soft skill that is highly appreciated here in the United States. And of course, there are different values. For Americans, time is money. For Mexicans, time is something that we have to enjoy, because la vida es un ratito. That is the reality. So bring that to the table as well. Because yes, I mean, you're gonna be here, you're gonna be dedicated, you're gonna be working hard to get your degree, but also you have to bring to the conversation the fact that, yeah, we're here and you're here to enjoy the ride as well. And also be mindful of the nonverbal processes. As you can tell, I am a person that I can have like a poker face. I can have a straight face. And it was not a problem, but it was something that people would provide me feedback about when I was doing interviews, when I was presenting a class, when I was, especially the first year I moved here to New York. So everything comes and boils down to a high versus low context communication behavior. A high context culture as ours has a lot of preference for seeing the whole picture. They have a lot of verbal agreements, not so much into written things. Also, high culture provides and help us with providing some structure that sometimes we feel it's based more in relationships, and in general, it comes from the heart. Whereas in a low context communication behavior, in a low context culture, as the American culture is, attention to detail is key. And I'm not saying by any means that we as Mexicans do not put attention to detail, but sometimes this attention to detail from a low context communication behavior can be perceived from us as somebody who is micromanaging, somebody who is not trusting in our abilities, or a situation where we feel that we have been scrutinized to do as a minimum work we do. So and the best example is email writing. Probably at this point, you have had some exchange and some mail exchanges with your universities and your departments and your deans and your representatives in the American university that you chose from. And probably, and I might be wrong, but this happened to me. I used to type my emails the way I used to approach my superiors in Mexico. And I would put a lot of effort, and I would think, because obviously English is my second language as well, into crafting and composing these super formal, beautiful emails. And I would get answers like, yeah, that's fine, or no, that's okay, or yeah, see you later. And I was like, what's going on? What did I do wrong? Nothing. It's just this clash of cultures and this clash of high context culture versus low context communication behavior. Also, and this is very interesting, the chronemics or chronemics, if you're British, and that is a time sense. In Mexico, we are the champions of saying, ahorita, I'm gonna be doing this. In Americans, they go like, what's going on? What is ahorita? Right now, tomorrow, the day before tomorrow, the day after tomorrow? I don't know what the hell is that. Excuse my French, I'm sorry. But yeah, chronemics play a really interesting role into what do we communicate. My advice for you, keep everything in written. And if you are a fan of the Google Calendar or any other type of calendar where you can, keep track of your appointments and schedule all of your appointments, do it, because you're going to be way more addicted to it. It's going to be your best friend, I promise. And this is also part of our kinesics, the way we move and we communicate with our body. The space that we utilize as a personal space as Mexicans, it's definitely way smaller than Americans. Americans need a little bit more space. And I'm talking in general, physically, but also technologically. If your professor tells you my time for inquiries or questions or my office hours is from 4 to 6 this day, then respect that and approach that from the kinesic side of, point of view, inside of things. And also be mindful, very mindful about sending cues about physical characteristics. Probably you know this, and I'm sure that you know this, but topics about physical appearance, body positivity, or, oh, you lose weight, oh, you look more chubby, or you look more thinner, are completely avoidable. And we as Mexicans, we tend to be very relaxed when we ask questions about that or when we comment on that. But here in the United States, you might encounter people who get really and easily offended by those type of topics. So just be mindful. And I'm going to close this section in the next slide with an example of how this clash of values comes into not only research work, but also comes into practice. And if you can give me the next slide, you will see that in 2014, actually, the GLOBE project, which is a consortium of researchers who study cultural differences across the globe, actually, and that is the name of the project. They contrasted and compared certain leadership styles across 25 countries. And they are doing the same pandemic edition this year, these researchers. And they later on measured leadership styles based on 6 variables that you can see on your left. They were intrigued about how charisma, team orientation, participation, human orientation, autonomy, and self-protection played as moderators for leadership. What can we discover by putting together the Mexican leadership style versus the American leadership style? Some very interesting things. For example, if we are looking at the charismatic side of things, definitely Americans believe that having charisma, it's something that is going to be more appreciated in a leader than Mexicans do. And the difference is pretty slightly. And if you think about our leaders in Mexico, they are in general charismatic people. So we tend to agree on that. About team-oriented, this can be probably intriguing or a little bit like in a flabbergasted type of way, different, because we tend to work in teams, but the main difference, and I want to continue with the participation things, is that Americans believe that a more effective leadership is the one that a person enacts by bringing all people into participation and taking into consideration the opinions of everybody in the team, as Mexicans do. We tend to have, then again, this distance of power where we have a leader and we can bounce ideas back, but at the end of the day, it is the leader who takes the last word, or who takes the last, or who makes the last decision. And interesting too, the humane orientation section, because humane orientation means how the leader cares about the well-being of their employees and how responsible does she or he feels about that. And we can see that there is a slightly difference between the Mexican and American style. And we can see the same for self-protection. Self-protection means how can I, as a leader, maintain my status quo and my reputation, and I do care more about my reputation than my team members. And we can see some differences there. I am not saying by any means that one thing it's better than the other, but these are just examples in how we can come into these intercultural conversation as Mexicans, and what things are we going to be encountering down the line that are going to be hindering or fostering our relationships, and therefore sometimes our academic performance in any higher institution, higher education institution here in the United States. And now I'm going to transition about speaking of culture and leadership styles and whatnot to give you two more examples, and then I'll close this section. I want to share two stories really quick. First one is the story of Juanito and the syllabus. As you may know, when you come to a class here, or probably if you don't know, you will see that you will get a syllabus, which is a document with all the requirements and the instructions and all the code of conduct in some other sections, and in the calendar as well of each one of your classes. Your professors are going to put their soul into it for you to understand how a specific class is going to be working, how you're going to be assessed, how you're going to get your beautiful A+ across the board, and what things do you have to do if you're missing a class or if you're missing an assignment. How can you negotiate that? That is probably one of the most important documents that you will receive at each one of your classes throughout the span of your coursework in any of your programs. However, Juanito, he thought that it was just a calendar for his class. He was like, okay, on Tuesdays, I'm going to be reading this and this and this, and on Wednesdays, I'm going to be reading and writing this report. But he overlooked the document. So someday he had an in vivo, that means a random exam, a surprise exam, and he didn't went to class. And then he realized that he had missed that. And in the fine print, la letra pequeñita of the syllabus, it said that nobody who missed that specific quiz was going to be given a second option or a second time. So he missed that. So don't be like Juanito. Be mindful and be beautiful and read your syllabus, please. Do yourself and do your professors a favor. Then again, they will give you and they will take you hand by hand to all the things that you need to transition successfully in a class and get a super outstanding grade. And I kid you not, the more attention you put to the syllabus at the beginning, the easier the class gets. And if you don't believe me, at the end you can complain, and I'm going to send you my email and my WhatsApp, and you can, send me complaints and whatnot. The second case here is academic amnesia. What about citations? Well, this is important. This is something that we, in universities in Mexico, high schools in Mexico, we speak about, but definitely we still have a long way to go regarding academic integrity and the standards of this. Basically, the story of this case is that somebody wrote a paper and he didn't, had into consideration the style that he was asked to write on. And you will see that for some people, APA is going to be the key. For some others, Turabian is going to be another way to write papers. For others, they're going to be using the Chicago Manual of Style. For others, it's going to be probably your department is going to be creating a style that you will have to utilize to create and compose your papers. So the moral of the story here is that you have to be very familiar with the standards of academic integrity of your university. And you are going to be sitting and you're going to be writing from a highly ethical standpoint, meaning that you will know what are the best practices to avoid plagiarism, that is taking citations and taking text and ideas from other people and believe those ideas as if they were your own, cheating on your exams. Probably you will have a computer-based exam or a take-home exam, and your professor is telling you, please do not look your books or don't do that, and then you're still doing that. Believe me, people will get to know if you did that. There are a lot of technologies and a lot of artificial intelligence put into place in every university in the United States, so they get to know whether you're cheating or you're plagiarizing or not. Also, be mindful of falsification. When you said, well, I think that for this essay, probably this is a good idea. I didn't read it anywhere else, but I'm going to be saying that that author, said that, but in reality, this is my idea. You're not going to be believing how many times I encounter those things, even with my own students as well. So just be mindful of that. And finally, we Mexicans tend to, then again, be very collective. And for example, we have an essay, and I'm going to be telling you, well, I think that in my essay, I'm going to be touching base on, I don't know, Cruz Azul winning, Arriba Cruz Azul winning the cup. And then somebody tells me, yeah, because in the minutes 56 of the match, this happened. And then I go and type, and according to APA, to give you an example, that tiny comment that person shared with me should have been cited and should have been put into the format, but I didn't do it. So that is an unapproved collaboration, and I have to be very mindful of that. There are many sanctions if you don't, if you break the rules, basically, and that those could go from suspension from a class, from giving you a letter, and a molestation, or basically they can rescind your registration at any university, and you can be banned to even register for another program in an American university. So you have to be very mindful of that. And now, as I promised with this, I'm going to be closing this part of culture and values, and I'm going to give you a little bit of actionable things that you can do to make this experience way more enjoyable. If you can give me the next slide. And I'm going to be flying through them because I know that the time together it's coming to an end. I'm going to be touching base first on the academic things. you will encounter that many of the classes are going to be very personalized between 10, 15 people, especially if we're going to be doing a graduate program, a master's or a doctorate. But you can also encounter that some classes, specifically the lecture classes, are super big. And by super big, I'm telling you between 70 to 200 people. Nowadays, with the pandemic, we don't know what you can expect, but I can anticipate that the largest group that probably is going to be meeting together, socially distancing, is going to be no more than 50 people in a room. But be prepared. You will have the opportunity to encounter fantastic one-on-ones with your professor, or your professor is going to be so busy with another 49 students that email is going to be your best friends there. And this is also tied to the relationship professor-student. Usually in Mexico, we tend to address our professors in a very formal way. That is not the case here in the United States. You can ask questions, you can basically share and speak up your mind, and nobody's going to be offended or nobody's going to be looking at you like, say what? Yeah, feel free, because your voice is unique. And believe me, your professors are going to be appreciating what you bring to the conversation, because that is you, that is unique, and that is something that it would have been lost if you weren't there. Then again, teamwork is key. Be very mindful that teamwork is a compendium for responsibilities, obligations, and contributions. And you have to check the marks on those three. And then again, I told you about writing and academic production. Beware of plagiarism and abide by the handbook. In most of the departments that you're going to be, they will give you a handbook with all the procedures and with all the things that you have to know in order to create beautiful, meaningful, and super professional papers. Be aware of that. And also the intercultural communication competence. And we talk about this in the first part of the presentation. And I just want to summarize that every encounter that you have in academia is also an opportunity for you to learn about others and about their cultures. And the more you learn, the richer your experience is going to be. And finally, every university will give you resources, writing centers, libraries, tutors. If you think that you're not quite there in terms of academic writing, those resources are for free. Go there, use them. Those are for you. And trust and believe that every university is going to be doing their best to offer you these opportunities at no cost. Those are for you. Again, go and take them. Can you give me next slide? Administrative, this is very important. Please get to know your dean or academic advisor. He or she is going to be the person you're going to be speaking regarding your coursework and professional opportunities as well. He will give you advice not only about the classes that you will have to take and the credits that you will have to take, but also about the things that are going to be important for you to learn and to prepare as a well-rounded and comprehensive professional. Also, on the administrative side of things, I have been repeating, be mindful, and that is the best word. Review carefully what is the paperwork that you have to complete, what are the key documents that you have to submit or to hand in. As an example, registration forms. Am I going to be taking credit-bearing classes? Am I going to be participating in a lab? What are the procedures? Am I going to be requesting for a proposal if I'm going to be writing a doctoral dissertation or a thesis? Do I need to do some specific things if I wanted to conduct research? Be mindful of those. Remember that every department in every university will give you all of those in advance, and you will encounter all of these on your student handbook. That is going to be like your tiny best companion ever. Also, on the administrative side of things, you will get to familiarize, and please go take the walk and meet these people about scholarships and grants. You would be surprised about the amount of scholarships and grants that exists for people like you. Because here in the United States, international students, even when our F1 visa gives us different classifications as to grants or scholarships. We have a lot of opportunities in academic excellence or performance or need-based or merit-based or even for minorities. So take advantage of those. You never know what's going to happen, and it'll provide you with, then again, more resources to reach your goals easier, or probably to dream about other goals that you have. Utilize the internship programs that every university has. These are opportunities for you to put into practice, to go hands-on to whatever you're learning in class. And those are opportunities to network as well. Remember also about service learning opportunities, conferences. If you want to go and present your papers, your posters, all the academic work that you are working hard to get into fruition, go there and have exposition of yourself to these places where the best minds in the world come and share. And basically, and very important, if you give me the next slide, don't forget about the place that you need to go to get free tickets for watching sports or playing sports. Remember, you're going to be there to study, to be one of the best in your area, but also you have to have fun. And this is part of being an international student, a Mexican student here in the United States. Next slide. I'm going to touch base now on community, because now more than ever, community is an integral part of somebody who is studying abroad. Remember that in most of the cases, you're going to leave your family behind in Mexico. So your campus is going to become your second home. And I am not kidding. This is going to become your second home, because basically you're going to be here from 8 o'clock in the morning to sometimes 8 o'clock in the afternoon or beyond. So the people that you're going to be studying with becomes your family, your chosen family. And this may sound corny, but it is not. Community is going to play an important role in how successful you are going to be while transitioning through here. Remember, the word of the hour here in Mexico, in China nowadays, is networking. And as I mentioned before, every single opportunity that you have to meet somebody new and to meet someone, it's an opportunity to get to know them. And probably around the corner, that person could open up a door for you to explore new opportunities. And then again, I mean, this is a super nice opportunity to foster and enhance your language skills and to become a global citizen, because you will then understand why, if you have a person who lives with you in your dormitory and it's from Iowa, why it is important for you as a person who is originally from Oaxaca, the agricultural practices in Iowa, and how can you do to lower the ecological impact of that. And then again, building friendships and connections. And I want to be very clear on this. It is completely forbidden that you come back to Mexico without making at least one American friend. We're not going to be forgetting and forgiving that. That is one of the main things that you have, to put into action. And next slide. Why is important culture shock? I mean, what community on culture shock and imposter syndrome? Probably you're familiar with this. Culture shock is this psychological process that every international student, and actually everyone, goes through when they move from a mother culture to a new culture. And you will go through all of these stages, and I will be very happy to share these stages and some further tips to cope with this. If you throw me an email. For the sake of time, I want to tell you that basically at the beginning, the first 2 months is going to be the honeymoon. Everything is going to be beautiful. It's going to be new. It's going to be exciting. You're going to be everywhere. You're going to see places. And then if everything goes down and goes south, and then you start questioning, what am I doing here? And now it's winter, and I have only 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours of light, of sunlight during the day, and I feel depressed, and all I want to do is eat and sleep. This is important because this is part of culture shock. And I promise this shall pass, you will defeat it. But if you think that this is something bigger and that you cannot cope effectively with this, there are many places at your local university where you can get help. For example, counseling and psychological services. Every university has this department. You can go there, schedule an appointment, and talk to a counselor. You can talk to your dean again. You can talk to your academic advisor, and you can talk to your peers. You can talk to your own community and get support from them. And the other part is imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, in a nutshell, it's basically this irrational belief that I am not good enough to carry on with my program. And that is one of the main causes on doctoral students and master's students that creates a lot of anxiety. The fact that you get an A in your project that you worked a lot of hours on, and then you start questioning, like, did the professor give me an A because I am the international student and he was just spitting myself? No, you're doing great. So then again, if you want to learn more about imposter syndrome and culture shock, please contact me, because if you can give me next slide, there is a reverse culture shock too. When you come back to Mexico, you will realize that now you get so used to the American culture and get used to the American or your life in the United States, that now readjusting to your place in Mexico is gonna create the same emotions and the same feelings that you had when you first moved to the United States. And that is an entire new process as well. So just be mindful of that. Then again, that you will have a honeymoon when you first come, and then when you're back in Mexico, you will have these shock again. And there are a lot of strategies, and I'm then again very happy to share those with you. If you can give me the next slide. For this presentation and for the purpose of this, and not only about talking about the emotional side of things, but in general, what resources do you have? Then again, your dean academic advisor is the best source of information, and he will refer you to counseling and psychological services, student associations, medical services as well, spiritual direction if you practice any religion or any spiritual belief, physical training, or social services. Something that the majority of the universities here in the United States strive for is to provide an education that not only educates the mind, but the person as a whole, but the human being as a whole. And you will be amazed about all the opportunities that you will have to enhance not only your language and professional skills, but also your soft skills. And with the next slide, in the next slide, because I want to be touching base on Mexican identity, I want to close this presentation. Yes, you are on the 5th step of the process, and you made it. And it's time for you to celebrate, and it's time for you to get prepared and to get excited, because this is going to be a challenging semester. It's going to be a challenging program. COVID-19 is still here. We are still battling with that. But despite of that, you made it. So you're a champion. You're one of the best. And bring with you your Mexican identity. Bring with you the richness of your language. You will be amazed of how many people will want to speak Spanish with you. As you might want to be speaking English with everybody, you will be amazed. Remember that we have a rich and eclectic culture, from all the way to Baja California, to Chiapas, to Quintana Roo, going to Nayarit, the center of the country. Every single piece of culture that we can bring and that we can share with other people are going to make the experience more enjoyable, not only for you, but also for them. Remember that as a Mexican, you have lots of creativity. Don't ever lose sight of this. And also, as a Mexican, you are a resilient person. You have overcame many obstacles, probably, since you first started getting advising from Education USA in your home state. And every single time that you passed a test, that you sent out a document, that you had to fill out a form that you didn't know how to fill, you were resilient. And that is what have you here. And that is what 2 years, 4 years from now will get you to the podium where you will receive your diploma. Remember that we tend to see life in a positive outlook. Don't lose sight of that either, because studying away, studying abroad, sometimes it can get a little bit dark. We spoke about this on culture shock and imposter syndrome, but we have that embedded in our culture. The positive outlook, it's tied also into our high soft skills. As I told you at the very beginning, we are people that we are willing to walk a mile or more in other people's shoes. We have that ability. We genuinely care for other people, and we are a true believers in solidarity, and that together we accomplish definitely way more things than being alone. So don't forget about that. Don't forget about bringing your Mexican identity and your local culture to your university. That is highly appreciated. That is highly valued. And you as a person are going to be welcome. Definitely are going to be welcome. I want to close this presentation now. This is my personal information. Please stay in touch. I would like to know how are you doing? Where are you going? What are universities? And if sometimes you want to come and visit me in New York, you're more than welcome. That is my office. That is my contact information. And now I want to give the floor back to Martha and Elizabeth in case you have questions or ideas, or if you wanted to share something, that is the time. So.
Perfect. Thank you, Jesus. Yes. Elizabeth, do you have any questions?
Yes, we have several questions for Jesus. And the first question is, do you recommend applying for an internship or focusing on studying?
Well, either you're doing an undergrad program, an undergraduate program, or a graduate program. If you have the chance to go for an internship, do it. Why? Twofold. First of all, you're going to get experience in an American company most of the times. And believe me, an internship is not like, yeah, I'm going to be doing like in Mexico, my practicas. No, that is a serious position. You will be, in most of the cases, treated as another employee, and you will have the same autonomy and the same feedback, but more importantly, lots of coaching towards the goals. And this is also an opportunity for you to discover if that is something that you would like to do moving forward once you graduate. And the second part of it is that the majority of the internships nowadays are paid internships. So why not making a little bit more money while you're there and while you are, studying and enjoying. And also, it's important to notice that the majority of the internships are offered during the summer months. And usually during the summer months, you won't have, if you have classes, you won't have like a lot of classes. And if you don't have classes, that is going to be time for you to, keep honing your skills. So I'll say, yes, do it.
Okay, and related to that question, there's the next one that says, doing an internship could help you out to get a job in the US after getting your degree?
Yes. And then again, this is probably one of the things that our friends from the US consulate are going to be talking about, but I'm going to be answering specifically for graduate programs. Once you finish your master's or your PhD, there is a period of time that is called the OPT, I'm sorry, that is 2 years where as a graduate, once you finalize your degree, you can stay and work in the United States for 2 years, not only to gain experience, but also with the possibility of getting a nice salary, and why not? Probably getting also a company that would sponsor your work visa if you are lucky and talented.
Okay, the next question is, as an incoming grad student, I have to choose between living with roommates or getting an apartment for myself. I personally would like to enjoy the privacy of my own, but I wonder if I'm wasting a potential chance to network. Should I try to live with roommates or look for other networking opportunities on campus?
I think that the best way to answer that is to be very honest with yourself. And if you are a person who gets easily distracted or who likes to be in a quiet space in order to focus and to concentrate on your academic work, then I would recommend you to stay on your own. On the other hand, if that doesn't bother you, then living with somebody, it's a challenge, but it is also a nice experience. And it's a way to networking, but also there is a specific department in every university that is called career services, and they will provide you with a lot of opportunities for you to network. Also, you have to be proactive. And if you're going to be participating in conferences or symposiums or even a student club, that is another way to networking. And I would say that in terms of living alone or with other people, then again, my answer would be think about how you approach and what your study habits are. And if you get easily distracted, as myself, yeah, you can definitely opt to be alone and try to find some other opportunities to network.
Okay, so the next question is, I'll attend a conservative, mainly white state in the United States. As a Mexican and part of the LGBTQ community, I'm slightly worried about discrimination. Have you had any sort of experience on that regard? Do you have any tips to cope with that if it happened? Thank you.
Absolutely. I am not going to be, I'm not going to turn my eyes away from the truth. Yes, discrimination exists, not only in very conservative places, but also here in New York, definitely exists. But I think that the best way to approach that is to be very mindful that that is not like the rule of thumb. It doesn't mean that you're going to be walking on the street and randomly you might be attacked. That could happen, yes, but the possibilities are really, really small. In case that happens, your university will have all this support structure. And there is something that all universities in the United States have to abide to that is called Title IX. Title IX, and there is actually a person who is in charge of Title IX. It's related to any discrimination, not only about sexual orientation, but also about sexual abuse and other types of discrimination. It could be income discrimination, racial discrimination, et cetera, et cetera. So if you go through the unfortunate case of being a victim of discrimination, either because you were targeted because you are from Mexico, or because you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, you will have to reach out to public security in your university, and they will follow up, and they will, create a file, and they will definitely sanction that person. I mean, impunity is not the key, or impunity is not the rule here. If somebody does something, it takes a little bit of time, but a lot of research and investigation is going to be conducted, and the person is going to be sanctioned one way or another. But the most important part is that you will get support. And if someday, and if you go through something like that, and you want to talk to somebody, you have my contact information as well.
Awesome. And the last question is, for Mexican students who feel worried about their English language skills when they arrive to the United States, which are your recommendations to them to overcome this?
Okay. My first recommendation is you will have to spend at least 2 or 3 weeks listening English and attending English and writing in English to start getting familiar. You have to remember that as we do in Mexico, there are different accents and different regionalisms embedded into language. So your ears have to get used to that. Your listening skills have to get used to that. On the other hand, if you think that you need support, then again, try to look for a writing center, and they are usually located at libraries, or try to speak with your dean. Most of the universities have English as a second language departments that offer classes. For example, here at Fordham, in my department, we offer seminars and workshops, grammar workshops, pronunciation workshops at no cost for students who are enrolled here who wants to strengthen their speaking skills or their listening skills. The most important part here is that if you think that you're missing part of your lesson or that your academic performance is being impacted by something that you have to refine in your English, let that not be something that will prevent you to become a successful student. Reach out for help. And then again, your academic advisor, your dean are going to be key and instrumental in that success. And then again, classes might be, and they could be very frightening at the beginning. But remember that you're not alone in that. And believe me when I say that even American students can get frightened for certain classes and can get frightened when they have to speak up in public as well. So reminding yourself that everybody's in the same boat and every international student is in the same boat, it's not a consolation by any means, but it's something that if you know how to utilize, it will empower you to overcome that. And you will realize that many of the times is this fear of sounding dumb. I don't know if this is of any help, but I moved here to New York 5 years ago. I have been on my doctoral program and working at the university almost 5 years. Well, my doctoral program 3 years. And I still have my, what I call Sofia Vergara moments, when I sometimes speak to somebody and I say, hey, I promise that if I were speaking this in Spanish, I would sound so intelligent. And I'm not kidding. And that happens. But the last thing that I can share is you have to learn to extend grace to yourself as well. You are in this learning journey, and there are a lot of moving pieces that are out of your control. But what you can control is the attitude and is the approach and the power in which you come into things. And remember, you're not alone. You have a lot of support. Just go and knock doors and knock the doors down if that is helpful.
Thank you, Jesus, for those great recommendations. And well, that's it. There are no more questions.
Perfect. Just one more question. We know that we have taken some more minutes, but the last one, I think this is very interesting and important information for all the people that is already preparing the departure. Jesus, they can, even if starting the program, they can think about some more types of scholarships even after the first semester or the first year, and they can apply to that, or they can still looking for that while they are there already?
Yes, I mean, there are many different scholarships, many different grants that they can apply to even when they haven't started classes. And my recommendation is that, yes, you can go and talk to your advisor at the university, and there are specific departments in every university, and that is the name, grants and scholarships, or grants and supports, or some type of name like that, where they will provide you with information, and they will sometimes provide you with coaching services or with accompaniment. So you can definitely apply to many opportunities. I remember in the span of the last 2 years being approached by at least 3 or 4 students at Fordham, asking me to be one of the recommenders because they are applying to internships in the Congress of the United States, or in the United Nations as well. I remember another student that applied for a scholarship for actually the Mexican Coalition here in New York, and it was like a $5,000 scholarship. That, I mean, $5,000 is $5,000. That covers books. But yeah, I mean, actively seek those opportunities, and you will be amazed that you have the same chances that many other people. So go for them.
Perfect. Well, thank you to Elizabeth for the questions. Thank you all for all the questions that you have brought to Jesus and for your answers. This has been very interesting, Jesus. And we really hope that this topic, and we are sure that this topic will help all of you to better understand and cope with their new international experience within a different culture. So we want to give an overall picture of the events of this series. So the following webinars will be June 16th, this Wednesday, your responsibilities as international student, then all about your US student visa, that will be next week on Monday, and on Wednesday, also next week, your student life in the US. Stay tuned as well in Instagram. You will have a lot of information there about the pre-departure and 2 interviews with also other international students. Thank you so much, Jesus. This has been very interesting. You are awesome in telling everyone about these topics. So looking forward to collaborate together again. And don't miss then on Wednesday this week, don't miss it, your responsibilities as an international student. We have a lot of important terminology for you to know and to have there very in mind before your departure. Thank you very much, and we will end this webinar of today. Have a very nice evening to everyone. This is our official website for more information. And if you want to contact Jesus, he has given his contact information to you all. For more information, you are very kind and very nice to provide your contact information to give more information about this pre-departure tips and information. And also follow us in social media. You can see on your screen all our Education USA contact information. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.